everyone, welcome back to another episode of Grow Up, the show where I help you connect with your childhood experiences in order to better understand our adult worldview. I am your host and friend Fernando, and thank you so much for being back here with me. Before we get into it, please remember to subscribe, like, share this podcast with whoever you think and know will find this interesting. My friends, today I will be talking to you about mastering adversities. We're going to develop strategies and tips to overcome adversity. I want to talk about adversity because I want to kind of, share a lot of what I've been going through with you, and also to create that space where we can come together, talk about certain things that we are facing, and find tips and ways how to move forward from there. Last week, we spoke about mid-year goal setting, which is something that we all tend to struggle with. And a lot of the times we get into the way of our goals due to adversities. So today we are going to talk about adversities, and we're going to understand what they are and everything that we need to know to develop strategies to better understand and manage adversity. So, step one, we're going to understand the nature of adversity. What constitutes adversity? According to Oxford, the Oxford Dictionary, right? This definition is very simple. Like I Googled, what is adversity? And it just says a difficult or unpleasant situation. So, that is, I think, a very basic and a very direct way to understand what adversity really means. But I thought, how can we dive deeper into this? And I found with vocabulary.com, and I like this one very much. It says adversity is a noun which has been a part of the English language for over 800 years, all right? And it comes from the Latin word adversus. I don't even know if you'd pronounce that right. I'm using my Portuguese pronunciation there, which literally means turned against and figuratively means hostile or unfavorable. One thing that's important to keep in mind here, that lit a light bulb, adversus in Portuguese, for example, an adversary, adversário, adverso, that's your opponent. That is something that is opposed to you, something that you have to fight through in order to get through, right? Adversity, your adversary, adversário, adversus. Basically, looking at it from that way. This is a fighting situation. When things seem against you, in circumstances, a stroke or a stroke of bad luck, okay, you are facing adversity. So if you feel like, you know what, I'm being unlucky and things aren't going my way, that is one way to, you're facing adversity. So they went further on to give us two ways to look at adversity. So first definition of adversity, according to vocabulary.com, a noun, a state of misfortune or affliction. So, for example, if you lose someone, that is a state of misfortune. If you are in serious debt, that is a state of misfortune. And affliction. Affliction causes unrest, it causes concern and worry. All right. That is one definition. And I'm so sorry. Definition two, also a noun, a stroke of ill fortune or a calamitous event. Okay, so a stroke of ill fortune. You know what, I walked out of the house and I wasn't prepared for the weather, and it just started raining, and at this point I need to be at a meeting and I can't go back home to change. So I'm faced with adversity. I need to find a way to get through this thing. How am I going to go to my meeting and I'm soaking wet, right? So something of a calamitous event, think of calamity, like in a disastrous event. If you're going through a flood and you lose everything that you've had in your home, that also constitutes as adversity, right? So that is definition on how we can really understand the meaning of this word. So for me, simplified adversity is literally when just your cards are stacked against you, and it's a situation that you have to work through and fight through and obviously come out on top on the other end. And why is it a common part of life? I am about to share with you, my friend, my personal life philosophy. And it's very basic, it's very simple. I think it's a little cynic, but or a little cynical, right? I think that life is as straightforward as just a series of events. And sometimes good things happen, sometimes bad things happen. There isn't really anything more to it. There's no real reason why something is happening to you. Some things just happen. The same way that we tend to not question good times for some reason. We don't question, like, in why is the good shit happening to me? We never do that. We always accept the good times as they come. But as soon as we face adversity or the bad times come through, we always like, in why me? Do you get what I'm saying? And we ignore that this is a fact of life. So it's not really even that deep. Okay, it's not some Aristotle's or some Socrates level shit. It's just literally that basic life philosophy that life is a series of events, and depending on where you are and the circumstances in which these series of events find you under, it can be it can either be a good thing or a bad thing. And that is why it is so common, because it's just a part of life. I will share with you my childhood adversity, and it's one that has literally put me where I am right now. I was born with, I don't even know how to say this. Do you say normal? Do you say fully bodied able, whatever? I was just born and I was fine. And I got Stephen Johnson syndrome, and that was the adversity that I had to face at that young age. I had to face possible death. I had to face disability. I had to face separation from my family. I had to move countries and live in a whole different countries and face new households all the time and move from different houses. I had to face boarding school, which was a different experience. So all of this happened within my childhood from the age of, I'll say 11, right? 10, because I just turned 10. I'm not taking away my year just because I was born in 90. Yeah. But I was 11, 10 or turning 11 later that year. And that's when I had to face this. And I was not prepared for this. I was not prepared for adversity. We never really are. We never really even talk to kids about the potential of adversity, because you don't want to scare children from scare them scare me from life. I don't know what the English is there. Like, you don't want to scare them from this experience. So you tend to avoid talking about the possibility of adversity and the possibility that you might have to face this world alone. We don't prepare children for orphanage. We don't live our lives in saying, we might die as your parents one day. You need to make sure that you're ready for that type of adversity. And it sounds very catastrophic and very hyperbolic, but it is one of those things where, like, there's a level of adversity that I faced as a child that I was not prepared for, which was I was possibly going to die. And I needed to understand that my life was possibly over. And there's no way to prepare a child for that, right? But I did face all these different challenges and all these phases, and I just had to come up with tools and tricks individually on my own on how I'm going to live my life. My parents, I don't even think they were equipped for what they faced as my parents. I'm talking from the perspective of what I went through as me as a child. But my parents were facing a different level of adversity from the same scenario, right? My parents now had to make the decision of whether or not they were going to risk the education quality. And if not, if we want to still give our child the best education possible, we have to ship her off to another country and she has to go live there without us. And we just have to trust strangers for the most part to take care of her, and that she would be safe and that she wouldn't be harmed further, and so forth. So they were not even prepared for what they were going through, that I don't even think they considered to prepare me for what I was about to face. So there is that level of it. It's just a part of life, and it's something that I went through. And obviously, with each step and each different stage of life, I had to just learn to deal with it. So That is basically, I would say, the introduction that I have to present as regards to what adversities are, what, why are they so common, and what was my personal experience with it. Now we're going to explore common challenges that we tend to face, which is something that we always forget, that for the most part, as humans, we are living a very similar life experience. Similar in that we are born, we go through life, and then we die. Depending on where you are born and the circumstances under which you're born, the family you're born into, the country you're born into, that obviously changes the dynamic of the levels and types of adversities that you're going to face. But for the most part, we share similar types of adversities. For example, we face personal setbacks, right? We decide that we are going to set goals, we are going to be more disciplined, and then we don't, and then we struggle, and then we procrastinate, and we try again, and we get up, and then we speak negative to ourselves. That's very internal, that's very personal. We all tend to go through personal setbacks, regardless of background, whether you're born into a rich family or if you're born into an impoverished home. Another set of adversities that we tend to share in common is the professional obstacles. This one can come in the form of having difficulties finding work, having difficulties finding employment, or having difficulties with your employer, having difficulties with your employees, having difficulties in growing within your career field, having difficulties with your work colleagues and making good relationships with your bosses and managers and so forth, right? And if you're not in the workforce as an entrepreneur or as a creative or whatever it is that you're doing outside of the corporate world, you need to be able to survive and able to provide for yourself and for your family in a way that is very, how can I put it? It's really on you to make sure that these things are taken care of. So professionally, there are all these setbacks that you could face. Getting fired is one of them. Losing a client, not be able to nail clients, and so forth. Health issues are another form of setbacks that we generally share in common. Cancers, for me, it was Stephen Johnson syndrome, HIV, asthma, sinuses, we all tend to face some form of health adversity. I think when somebody's going through a health problem, we sympathize and we understand the situation because we can somewhat relate to those challenges. And as well as relationship difficulties. We're all trying to date, we're trying to be married, and we're trying to be a good wife, we're trying to be a good husband, a boyfriend, a mom, a dad, a friend, a sister, a brother, so it is very important to understand that there are some commonalities in the types of adversities we face. What the adversity itself is obviously a whole different story, but the fact that we all go through personal things, we all go through professional struggles, we all go through health struggles, as well as we go through relationship struggles. It is important to build resilience. It is important to understand that this is something that is going to happen. How are you going to become resilient? Okay, so these are some strategies and techniques that I think we can develop or use to better manage adversities. This is at least something that I try to do. First and foremost, recognize why you might be in the situation. Is it something that you have control over or not? Why this is important, I'll say, is because many a times we find ourselves, let's say, for example, the personal setbacks, right? We sit there and we're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not nailing it. My life is not going the way that I want to, and so forth. And you fall into a depression or feeling of depression and so forth. And you don't know how to get up from that. If you stop for a moment, then you recognize, okay, why am I in this position? You will quickly recognize that you're in this position because you're procrastinating, because you're not putting in the work that you're supposed to be putting in, right? Why am I in this position in my relationship? Why is my relationships not working? It's because maybe I nag a lot, maybe I'm not patient with my partner, maybe I am very demanding, and so forth. So try to recognize why you're in this position. Once you recognize why you're there, see if you have any control over the situation, right? Most of the times we do, and a lot of the times we don't. When we do, that means that I have control over this so I can make very effective changes. But you first need to understand, why are you here, and do you have control over the situation? Why am I here? I'm here because I feel like my boyfriend is very toxic and this relationship is not going to work. Do I have control over this? I don't have control over how he is going to behave, right? I have control over how I am going to behave. So let me try and see if my behavior, no, I wouldn't even say that for this scenario. What is he's toxic, right? And I don't have control over his behavior, so you can't do anything about it. But why, in a different scenario now, if we flip the script, why am I here? Because I'm quite toxic. I nag, I shout, I fight, and all of that stuff. And generally it always starts from me. Do I have control over my behavior? I do. Am I going to change it? Yes. And then you make your changes, right? And you'll see that as soon as you start to take control over your behavior and those changes come through, the situation in itself is going to change as well. Try to learn as much as you possibly can about yourself through this tough time. It's very easy to sit and wallow. And I'm not talking about people who suffer from depression. I'm not talking about people who are dealing with clinical depression, because that's a whole other conversation. But I'm talking about many times where we feel so negative about ourselves. We start to talk so negatively about ourselves that we fall into this trap and sit there and we look at the situation that we are faced with and we just crumble before it. Take that moment to recognize, why am I acting so weak? Why am I being such a crybaby about this, right? What can I do? What is within me that I can conjure to rise up from this situation, right? Learn about yourself as much as you possibly can, because you might find that, you know what, I am quite an emotional person. I cry very easily. So in the future, when I'm in a situation like this, maybe I will not engage in this type of argument. I'll just step away, because I don't want to find myself bothered or crying over something. You might learn that you are actually more resilient than you thought. You'll be like, actually, I'm quite stubborn. I don't need to take this. If it's a no, I'm going to say no. You might learn that you are somebody that is unable to say no. And then you will find that I'm in this situation because I couldn't say no. Now I'm struggling with this. Next time, this is what I'm going to do. Do a lot of introspection through this process, whatever adversity you might be going through in that moment, to see how much you can learn about yourself during that moment, and do so. Remind yourself that just like the good times, this will not last forever. Good times last. Good times never last, and neither do tough times. Like I said in the beginning, this is just part of life. These are just a series of events that occur, and depending on your circumstance in that moment, you might view it as a bad thing or a good thing. A lot of people can have something happen, like, oh, they got a new job and they got hired there. They themselves might look at it as like, in shit, you know what a horrible time for me to get hired. I got a job outside of state or outside of the province, and now I have to leave my family. And the thing is, the job that I got is not going to pay me enough. It's probably going to make things worse, but I need this job. And now you're stuck with this thing. And you feel like, damn it, what am I going to do? And somebody else might be looking at you and be like, oh, at least they got a job, right? But you're not looking at it from that perspective. I'm actually saying something else. I'm supposed to be speaking about good times, a loss. Oh, okay. So weird to do this at a podcast, but I was trying to explain the point of how, depending on whatever situation you might be in, you will view the situation, whether it's a good or bad. So if you're going through something good, know that those good times are not going to last. And the same way that if you're going through something bad, those bad times are not going to last. And most importantly, remember that adversities are not unique to you. It is a part of life. We all go through them one way or another. Okay, we all have some form of adversity that we've been through or that we are yet to face. So it's not unique to you. So saying, why me, is really redundant, because if not you, then who, right? And don't you think that other people also are going through something in that moment? We are all facing some form of adversity, or will face a form of adversity one time or another. So you just need to be mentally prepared for when this time comes, be able to recognize it, see what you can learn about yourself in that moment. And remember that good times don't last, and nor do the bad times. And most importantly, remember to be ready for the next time that this happens, because the good times don't last forever. Don't get too cozy in the good times. Don't feel like, yeah, now I got the good job, I got the good pay, and you get too cozy in that. Remember that there's something that's going to come around the corner. It's very pessimistic, but it's very true. You are bound to go through something. We are bound to lose a loved one. It's very treacherous to think about it, but it's coming, right? We are bound to lose something or to go through a health issue. Something is about to happen, and you just need to be ready for that. Prepare preventative measures and all of that that you can do, because getting comfortable just because things are good is not going to do anything for you. Number four, we have to shift our perspectives, right? So, how adopting a positive mindset and reframing challenges can help in overcoming adversity. I think adopting a positive mindset is very important, and it's very helpful in many senses, right? Like, you know what, I'm going through this bad time. Let me see what is the good in it. What do I learn from it? What can I get out of it? How can I benefit from this? I usually say that I refuse to go through something, anything, and feel like I was taken advantage of or feel like I wasted my time. If I'm going to do something, if I'm going to commit to something or go through whatever it is, I have to benefit one way or another. And that's the way that I look at it, from a positive mindset. You know, I've worked for free for no pay for like 2 to 3 years, and people would be like, but why? You're being used and so forth. And I was like, I learned a lot of skills, and I'm putting those skills to use now. Had I just gone there and looked at it from that perspective, maybe it could have been true as well, right? From the view of other people. But from my view, is like, you know what? Let me be here for as long as I need to be here to get what I need to get out of it. And once I don't need it anymore, I'm out. And that was also a way for me to regain control of the situation. So see where you can regain control, or what is the word? When you just turn the tables, right? It looks like somebody else is in charge, and you're feeling used, you're feeling neglected. But then how can you make this beneficial to you? Flip the script on the situation, and you will feel more positive about it, because now you're going to leave there being like, and you know what? It was hard, but at least I got something out of it. Don't do anything that is not going to benefit you. And even though sometimes you're put in certain situations, don't feel like you always have to blame the external. It might be somebody else's fault, but how can you flip the script? How can you make the best of this current situation? Try to look at the silver lining at every single cloud and see how you can make yourself feel better, or just bump yourself up from that moment in order for you to best cope with this situation. Because if you stay in that negative mentality, if you don't have the capability of shifting your mindset and at least having some sense of positivity, it will be very, very, it will be a long journey. The longer you dwell in negativity, the longer the situation feels. Even though it's something that's happening for a week, it might feel like it's been going on for like ever, for years, right? Just because you're not able to like reframe your mindset. And if you struggle to do that, number five, seek some support. If you struggle to individually reshape your mindset and reframe your thoughts, seek support. Find people of importance that you can reach out to, whether it's family, whether it's friends, and say, hey, I'm going through a challenging time and I am struggling. I don't know how to lift myself up from this. And you will find that people will have positive words to share with you. Some people might actually have an actionable solution for you on how to get through the situation. Some people might know somebody that can assist you in that situation. And if you're able to seek like counseling and get therapy, go through that. If you find that you're struggling to do that internal work yourself, that you're finding the difficulty in flipping the script independently, seek outside help, because people from the outside always have a bird's eye view. They have a different perspective to your situation. We are seeing the same thing, but they're seeing it from a different angle. And anytime you speak to someone about these things, they give you a different way to approach the thing. I'll give you a simple example. I was talking to my friend earlier today about how I struggle to make my son question things. Kids today, they're all on the internet, and you realize just how much misinformation there is when you have a child. And how can you make sure that your child doesn't just fall blindly to things, that they learn to question things, that they learn to investigate and research. And my approach was, you know what? How did this thing happen? When did this, like, ask these five research based questions: why, where, when, what, what, who, whatever. And my friend, who does not have a child, who's not a parent, was like, give them a frame of questions to ask, but not those ones, because now it's almost like you're making them question their own ability to their own ability of discernment. Give them a question that will give them that chance to also feel confident in that, I've thought about it. For example, why did this thing happen, and how could you have done it differently? What do you think would be best? How could this thing have happened differently? And in this happening differently, how do just kind of leading questions that will create a conversation that will make them think a little bit more critical about the situation. I'm not giving a very good example, but it was more along the lines of that. And I felt very relieved because it is something that's concerning me. I'm worried about my son not being able to have the ability to sift through things and question things, that he might just blindly follow things. How can I guide him? It is a form of, it's not an adversity, but it's a challenge that I'm facing. And somebody gave me a different view, somebody who I wouldn't have expected to have had a more helpful solution for me, on the basis that they don't have a child and I've had a child for 12 years. So share your adversities with people, and they will give you a different angle, a different way to look at the situation, that will really help you in getting through the situation. Number 6, learning from setbacks. Remember, I talked to you about growing and learning about this growth opportunities that can arise from overcoming adversity. There's a lot of growth opportunity within that. And I feel like if you tackle adversity from that perspective, from that mindset, as to say, look, I am going through this shit. Okay. This is a good moment for me to take a look at how can I best benefit from this? What can I learn? And how can I possibly grow? If I get through this moment, if I get through this, what are the things that I'm most likely to gain from it? How am I going to come out on the other side? Am I going to come out victorious and better, or am I just going to come out beat down and defeated? If you are beat down and defeated, then that moment of adversity will last forever, because you'll just forever remember that, damn it, I couldn't get through that and I've never gotten up from it. And you'll forever beat yourself out from it. But if you look at it as a growth opportunity and you say, ooh, wait a minute, let me just see, let me just challenge myself. How can I think more critically to get myself out of these challenges? And how will I come out on top of this situation, right? So learn that there is growth opportunity that can help you arise and overcome adversity, right? Number 7, developing coping mechanisms. So we can explore different coping mechanisms that can help individuals navigate and deal with adversity. So we can say meditation. Meditation is one of those things that, depending on where you are, who you are, who, who you either receive this well or you don't. I feel like meditation, for me, is usually a form of introspection, or I use introspection as a form of meditation. So sit here and look within and think, why am I in this situation? Remember from the top, why am I in this situation? Okay, do I have control over why I'm in this situation? All right, so what am I going to do about it? Okay, how can I benefit from this situation? How can I come on top of it? How long will it take me to get out of this thing? Right? Possibly. But sit there and think about it. What type of a person am I? Am I even capable of doing this? Should I seek help? Is this something that I have zero control over? So who has control over the situation that I can talk to that can help me through it? So you just sit and you just look within and you meditate on it, right? Set daily goals that will help you come up with solutions that will help you come out. I deliberately said will versus might because you have to really be realistic about the situation that you are facing. You have to. If you're not realistic about what you're facing, you think of things that are just irrelevant to the situation. What will help you get out of this? Most of the time, it's very difficult tasks, very difficult personally. Sometimes maybe you are, let's say, struggling to get clients or forth. And one of the things that will help you get out of that situation is that you do cold calls. That will help you get out of that situation. And it's a very difficult thing to face rejection in the face and to just dive in and accept the possibility of rejection. So set daily goals that will help you come up out of that situation and do those, commit to them, right? Commit to the fact that you are trying to get out of a situation and that it is your responsibility to get yourself out of that situation. And I'm literally talking about situations where, for the most part, it's personal. Not so much health issues. Okay. Health issues, I think we can address those from a preventative measure. You know what your family is most likely to contract. You know what your know those things. If you don't know, try to find out your family medical history. What diseases are you most susceptible for or to? Whatever. The English went away again. But with that, what you're going to do is, what are the preventative measures that I can take to avoid myself from getting in that situation? It doesn't mean that it will fully protect you from that, but you at least have some peace of mind in knowing that, look, I did what I needed to do to at least minimize the damage or to minimize the speed in which I get this, or if I get it at all, right? So that form of health is how I look at it. I think health is it's a preventative thing. Once you are in there, it's very difficult to say what the outcome will be, how you can even get out of there. Having been through a health challenge myself, I guess because I was a child back then, it's very difficult to even remember what my state of mind was at the time. However, I think that many people do heal themselves mentally first, and they tend to not die for the most part. Many times, a lot of people don't die because they almost will it, you know, the dogs. They almost will it. So you have to also see how you can mentally prepare yourself for possible health issues, but how are you going to prevent them? All right. So that's how I look at things. So I'm not necessarily speaking from somebody with a terminal condition or so forth, because that's a whole different thing that I'm not equipped to speak on. But I feel like, in terms of personal growth and personal development, sometimes we have these points of like in challenges where we face changes and so forth, and it feels very terminal and permanent, and we don't know how to deal with that. So setting goals is a way to get ourselves out of those funks. And another thing that's very important to do is to find somebody who has been through what you are going through right now. Finding people who have some form of experience in dealing with the situation that you're dealing with is very, very helpful. It's very comforting as well. There's comfort in knowing that you're not alone. I remember recently, I'm struggling with the dryness because of where I live right now. Oof, I hope there's no one in my yard. Okay. So I'm facing this dryness with my eyes because of where I live now, and it is affecting my sight and so forth. And I've recently started looking for people who might have the same condition as I, who have had Stephen Johnson syndrome like I did, and to see how they might be coping. And there was a relief in just knowing how many people have been through what I've been through. And a sadness, I guess, in people are still going through this. People are still getting Stephen Johnson syndrome. But there's comfort in knowing that, hey, you know, there are people that I can talk to that can help me through this situation. And that's just all that I need to do. Find these people and communicate with these people and share my struggles with them and see how they can give advice and tips on how you can get through this. I'm a little bit nervous because the dogs are barking so much. But either way, so we cultivate self belief. I learned to do this today with my friend again, same person who was talking to me about how to teach my son to ask relevant questions. Milo? So, same person that I asked about my son. We're also talking about going through the self talk. And she's a very confident person. Like, I love hearing her talk. She always just talks about how she's the shit, and she's going to make it. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I am getting there. I'm getting it. I'm having it. And last week, I can't remember what I said. And I said, I hope whatnot. And she goes, girl, we don't say hope. We say it will happen. We don't hope for things. So remove hope from your vocabulary. And today, when I was talking to her about, I want this and I want that, she's like, I noticed you said want, and wanting to achieve something leaves room for you to not do it. The word is will. I will get this. I will have that because I'm the shit. I'm the best at this. Lean into that cockiness. Lean into that arrogance. Live it. Believe it. Every day, get up and say, I am the shit and nothing is gonna hold me down. I will go through whatever shit I need to go, even if I die in the process, but I will show the world who the hell I am. And that was just such a fire that she lit in me today. And there was something to it. There was something to it that I was like, you know what? I am going to lean into it. I'm going to lean into that arrogance. There is that self belief that most of us carry. A lot of us believe that, you know what? I am good at this and I'm going to do it. But we are discouraged from saying it and from living that way. We are mostly encouraged to be humble and low key and so forth. But she's saying, don't do that. Don't be that guy that tones themselves down. No, hype your shit up. Tell people who the hell you are and what you are about, and show up to respond to those people who say that, no, you just all talk and no action. You're going to be like, bitch, what? So she had that thing. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to lean into that. And as soon as I internally started to slowly tell myself these things, and I asked her, what about the moments where you have some form of self doubt? Do you even have that little bit? She says, yes, I have it. And that's when I have to say it even louder, right? That you are tripping, girl. You are tripping. You are the shit. How dare you even insinuate that you might not be? That's when the self talk and the self hype becomes even louder. And I said to myself, I'm going to be that. No, I am that. Okay. I'm saying it right now. I am that. Okay. And all I need to do right now is show up and say, what? What then? Do you understand? That level of cockiness in the face of adversity is everything. We were talking about fighters, how two people are about to get into the ring, right? And both these people are 100% sure that they are going to win. Imagine that, walking into the ring where there's only one winner, but I am sure that I'm going to win. And so does my opponent. There's some magic to that, right? So your adversity, whatever circumstance is, that's what it is for you. They are convinced, or it is convinced, that it's going to beat you down. Well, you need to step into the ring with that same energy, and may the best man win. And there's only one person that is going to walk out. There is only one option here, and the option is that I come out on top. That is the only option. There is no other possibility. There is no other intention except that I am coming out on top. That's what I've done my whole life, right? That's what has been expected of me. That's what I expect of me. So why wouldn't I do it again and again and again in the face of whatever adversity I might face? That is it. It's that simple. Develop that level of arrogance. Be cocky. Don't accept anything other than the best for yourself. That you are the best, that you are going to come out on top. Don't accept anything. There's no might, there's no possibility. There's a definite yes. I have done this and I will do it again. That is it. Okay? So I got myself hyped up. Whatever thief I thought was going to come in here, if he walked in through, don't walk in. But should he walk in, I'm going to kill him. Or don't walk in. So yeah, improve your self-image, that image that you have of yourself. Improve the level of confidence that you have on yourself. Who are you? Whose child are you? I love it when Christians say, I am the child of God. And who? Come on now. That level of confidence, have it. Who the fuck are you? And live up to that. Don't be anything less than what you know you are, than what you know you are capable of. And that is beating the situation. And I'm speaking with so much passion because I am so sick and tired of all of us finding ourselves in these positions and trying to rationalize as to why we might be there and not do anything about it and be complacent and expect the fact that this is just a part of life. Yeah, it is a part of life, but it doesn't have to be a part of my life. I don't have to be the loser in my life. I will have to face adversities, and I'm ready for that. I recognize it and I'm ready for it. I've beaten them before and I'll beat them again. And after that, and every time after that, until I die. It has to be that. It has to be that passionate. If it's not this passionate, if it's not this aggressive, and if it's not this angry, you are going to be defeated by your own circumstances. You are going to be defeated by your own negative self-talk. You are going to be defeated. And if you don't want to be defeated, if that is not the caliber of person that you are, don't accept it. Just send it to hell and you step up and do your shit. All right? Number 9, you have to set realistic expectations. Manage your expectations, right? It's okay to come out and say, I need to do this and I am going to come out on top. Because you are going to come out on top. There's no question about that. And that is the expectation that you have. Not always do things go the way that we want. And it's okay in that moment. I'm afraid to contradict what I'm trying to say here. So I'm going to say it that they might sound like a contradiction. But what I'm saying that is different to what I was saying in the previous point. The self-image that you have is that of a warrior, is that of a conqueror, is that of a victor, all right? It's not that of a you don't have the mindset of a defeatist. You're not the loser. You never lose. You never lose. In whatever circumstance you are in, you never lose. You always win. That's the difference. You always win. The difference that I speak of is that you come out expecting something that might not even be possible in that moment. But what is fact is that you will never lose. You don't come out a loser. I do not go through shit to come out with nothing on the other hand. Do you understand? I will not go through a gold mine to come out with no gold in my hand. I might not come out with 50 kilograms of gold, but if I come out with a kilogram of gold, I came out with some gold. I didn't go through all that digging for nothing. So manage your expectations. Manage your expectations and set achievable and realistic goals that can contribute to you defeating this adversity. It doesn't help to say that I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and you set all these big goals that you know right now you're not in the position to tackle. And you come out defeated because you are dealing with a titan. Okay, don't look at the circumstance of this position. Don't underestimate your opponent ever, ever. So you need to develop tactics and skills and and strategies that allow you to defeat your opponent. Okay? You don't always have to knock them out. You can punch them. You can punch them and punch them and punch them over and over and over and over again. That is attainable. The goal here is to win. The goal is here to not die. So why would you try to knock out something that you can't knock out, but you can punch down? Punch down, punch down, and punch down until it is down. That is just it. Be realistic. Manage your expectations. Don't go into something underestimating your opponent. The minute that you underestimate your opponent, you lose. Recognize that you're on equal planes. The same way that you look at your problem as a huge problem, you are that big. So your fight is big, okay? Don't think that you're fighting small things. You have a huge, huge battle ahead of you. So face your opponent with the dignity that he deserves and then beat it to a pulp. That's it. That is it. Okay? You can look at so many people. There's so many people to draw inspiration from in terms of how to beat adversity or how they've come out on top. One of the stories that I love, Maya Angelou's story. I love Oprah Winfrey's stories. I'm not necessarily like an Oprah fan, but to have gone through what they went through in their childhood and for Oprah to be the billionaire that she is, come on now. Or is she a millionaire? I don't know. But for her to have the influence that she has, who doesn't want to be an Oprah? It doesn't even have to be financial influence. I would love to be that voice that speaks. Look at Trevor Noah, where he comes from, right? Where his mom had to drop him like a bag of weed. And look at who he is now. There are people who have been through things that neither you or I will ever face, nor will anyone in our generation possibly face. They exist. People who have been through shit, who are going through shit, and who will possibly never win. And there are people who have beat the demons. They have beat these adversities. They have gone through it. And they're in a position now to tell you and tell me what to do, what is right, what is wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there is power in this. There is power in building your self-image. There is power in building your self-confidence. And there is power in being very introspective. Because once you realize what you're dealing with, once you face your opponent, you know who you are fighting. And you fight it with the dignity that it deserves. Because it came to you for a reason, right? A lot of people say, God is not going to take me through something that he can't take me to, or take me to something that he can't get me through, right? So there's some level of capability and ability that you possess. So dig deep and find it and be the shit. So that is all I have for you today. I had a moment of cowardice because I was scared. My dogs were alarming me, but I made it through. All right. I made it through. Imagine if I cowered before the bark of my dogs. What would I have done? I would have paused this episode and then never recorded it again. That is what you do, my friend. That is how you beat the shit. Okay? You power through, you stand your ground, and you go through the fear, through the concern, through it all. You do the shit. Right? So thank you so much for tuning in. I love you. Remember to go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and leave us a review. Google Podcasts, YouTube, and subscribe, follow, share the podcast with everybody that you love and that you know will find a lot of use and positivity in this. And remember, we are all going through shit. So lead with kindness, because we don't need another piece of shit to make our lives even worse. So that's it for today. I love you, and I will see you next time. Bye.